before I start here. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Let me present. Okay, Bismillah. So today we are going to talk about Ibn Hazm. This is the new scholar. We talked about Abu Yusuf and Abu Ubaid. Now we are going to talk about. So we are going through. I mean, chronologically we are going. So we talk the oldest, and then the next, and then the next. So we have Ibn Hazm. He is one of the great scholar. His full name was Abu Muhammad Ali ibn Ahmad ibn Sa'id ibn Hazm. So basically his name is Ali. He also used to be called Abu Muhammad, but the historians remember him by the name of Ibn Hazm. He is also known as al-Andalusi al-Zahiri. I think some of you may heard this name, Zahiri. It used to be considered as one of the madhab, like you have Maliki, Hanafi, Shafi'i, Hanbali. Then there is another madhab used to be known earlier, but not right now. Earlier it is called Zahiri. Basically speaking, Zahiri means apparent. So they don't interpret when it comes to ta'arudul hadith. For example, ta'arudul nusus. What we mean by that, there is a Quran and Sunnah, and there is a two Quranic verses or two hadith. For example, if it is interrelated or if it is against each other. For example, the meaning is actually one is contradict to another. Most of the time the scholars will try to solve the problem by interpreting, looking into the sabab al-nuzul, and these are the things. But when it comes to Zahiri is a school. It is actually founded by Dawood al-Zahiri. What they do is actually they are characterized by reliance on the appearance of expressions in the Quran and Sunnah. To them the analogical, what we call the qiyas is not that much welcomed in the case of when it comes to the contradictory. They just wanted to believe in as it is. This is what there is a mazhab used to be called Zahiri, and he was also considered that part of the Zahiri mazhab. He has so many work written, especially the work like Fiqh al-Muhalla bil-Aathar. Also, he wrote many other books. They used to say that he used to produce 400 works, but which only 40 works still survived. So talking about Ibn Hazm Zahiri, that is what the fiqh perspective. When it comes to fiqh, he is a Zahiri. There is no doubt about it. Let's say some of the ulama, like Abu Yusuf was a Hanafi, and Abu Ubaid was an eclectic scholar. So I told you his methodology was ikhtiyariya. He don't follow certain madhab. He just go with what is the benefit, what is the right thing, then he will go for it. Similarly, when it comes to fiqh, Ibn Hazm was a Wahiri, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that he was similar. When it comes to fiqh, yes, he against of doing the qiyas. But when it comes to philosophy, when it comes to other fields of the study, that's why he was quite famous. Not only in fiqh, he was a famous historian. He was a philosopher. He was a theologian, right? He, of course, he has a lots and lots of thinking process going, and he was able to capture it in his notable work called Kitab al-Fasl fi al-Milal wal-Ahwa wal-Nihal. So this is actually basically a history book, and it's like a Muqaddimah Ibn Khaldun, but Ibn Khaldun came in 15th century, and Ibn Hazm is actually coming from 10th century. So there is a 500 years of gap between Ibn Hazm and Ibn Khaldun. So it could be his book, like Kitab al-Fisl wal Milal, could be sample work for Muqaddimah. Not necessarily everything like Muqaddimah, but it could be something. He also talks about different sect, different groups of the people, their history and everything. It is considered that this scholar Ibn Hazm wrote around 80,000 pages. It is unbelievable, but he did that. Um, the In fact, the Encyclopedia of Islam refers to him as having been one of the leading thinkers of Muslim world. So you see, he is one of the thinkers because we call it mufakkirin, but doesn't mean that his fiqh was, yes, his fiqh was Lahiri. He take the apparent meaning. He doesn't want to go deep like reasoning in fiqh, but it doesn't mean that he didn't do the reasoning in other things. That's why I said in fiqh he is different. Other than fiqh, he is a thinker, right? So basically he was born in Andalus. He was born, so he is from Cordoba, today present day Spain. He was born in the Khilafah of Cordoba during the Umayyad period. The Umayyad, when, as I told you earlier, Umayyah were in Dimashq, then they moved to Cordoba as a headquarters, right? So that was the time during that Umayyah period. But at the same time, when Umayyah was in Cordoba, as I told you earlier, Abbasid were already in Baghdad, right? In some other places there. They already started, having it. Abbasi were ruling at the same time, concurrently. But you need to know that Cordoba, Spain is the one end, and Khurasan is the other end. Huh? You need to know that the side. You need to see the map. Look Mecca and Medina in as a center. Then you will see all the way to Spain, and then you will see all the way to what today we call Afghanistan and Pakistan. You see that is the entire area was Islamic territory. This is a huge territory. You need to understand that even those time America was also not there. America America came into existence after so many centuries. America was not in existing. America was not existing during Prophet ﷺ period. It was not there. It was not identified. It was not actually identified by the historian. It was only later identified and developed. So you need to know this. And then people were migrating. You can see that the people in America, even though it looks like a huge country, you need to know that people in America are those who migrated from Europe, from Africa, from Asia. That's why you can see in America all kind of people mixed together and live together, because Americans, they are not like native Like you have native English, you have native Spanish, you have native Chinese, you have native Malay because you are Malay because you are from Malaysia, right? I'm Indian from India, right? But Americans, there is no native for American. There are few, they call it West Indies, like what we have here, like Orang or Orang Asli, right? The original, the old, the ancient. There are few people, but most of them, the dominating people in America, right? They are the one, long time ago, they are the one who migrated. So you need to understand, when we are talking this history, it is the world that today what we know in the name of Europe, Asia, and Africa. So it was only, even Australia, all actually also came. You can see the Australia also similarly the same case. They migrated, and the original Australians are actually Aborigines. And you see Aborigines, they look alike black, or maybe they look alike the people who are in Papua Guinea, right? In those area, even some of them look alike Indonesians. So this is the, I mean the dark Indonesians, not not the fair one. So these are the differences. You can see that wherever you see these people are there, whether they are in South Africa or in New Zealand or Australia or America, these are the white people. They are the migrated people. They migrated from Europe. Europe is their original. So if you look into the history of Europe, then again you will understand that how these people, migrated from Asia and then move all the way to Europe and then settle there. So you can see that the most important civilization, like what we call Mesopotamia, which is actually you have in Egypt. Egypt is the oldest, and then you have another one near Afghanistan, Pakistan, those areas. So these are the originally speaking, the people started living there, and then slowly. So now I'm just giving you this picture because you need to understand this is the world. That time the world was Europe, today America, Africa, and then Asia. So within this world, Muslims were able to, expand their territories from Spain. I mean, one side you have Spain, the other side you have Khorasan, you have Afghanistan and Pakistan. So look at the area covering it, covering. In fact, even it goes to Africa as well. The other side you go to Egypt, and then today what we have Libya, right? Morocco, for example, all these things even covered. Even those day there has Zanzibar, right? Even what we call it today, the islands that close to Madagascar, and then those places like today we have in Nigeria, until those places. These are the things covered by Islamic. These are the expansion of Muslim territories. So now you can see how big it is, how big it was. Of course, later it was all split into many pieces, and then nationalism came, and then everybody were given the name according to their language, according to their identity, right? That thing happened later. But I just want to give you an example. This is the picture of the world, and Ibn Hazm was born in Qurtuba, but you need to also understand Ibn Hazm originally not from Qurtuba. Like I told you, Umayyads are the one who came and then started expanding their headquarters in Qurtuba, which means that they are coming from other land. See, the migration already started happening. If you see Arabs in Spain, they are not originally Spanish. They are the one who came from, of course, they are Arabs. Arabs mean coming from the Arab land. But they went there, they got married, and then from there only they expanded the entire, the society, the public. So that's the reason why today, even today, you can see that if you go to Spain, you will identify so many heritage that actually you can see that Muslims were here. In fact, the language, if you are keen, you can learn some Spanish language. There is so many Arabic words already there in the Spanish language. You cannot take that away because yeah, they have converted those um, masjid into what we call it, into church. That's because when Muslims were going to when Muslims were migrating to those places, Spain, and they started converting uh, churches into masjid. So later masjid started as, as converting to churches. So similarly, the case like what we have in the big there is a big masjid in Turkey. I think recently you also had they had a problem of converting it was a church, then became masjid, and then after it became um, the museum. Then again, the current prime minister, the president, wanted to make it into church. So now you can understand this is what actually were happening before. So as I told you, Umayyad moved to Qurtuba, but doesn't mean that the Muslims in Qurtuba were originally coming from Qurtuba. In Ibn Hazm case, Ibn Hazm originally he is actually known as a descendant of Yazid. I mean the son of Muawiyah. I think you remember now. The Muawiyah was the first Khalifa, and then the son was Yazid. And it is also known that this Ibn Hazm was actually originally from uh, uh, Persia. He was actually identified, the genealogist that identified that he is from moving from Khorasan, from that side. I mean, his forefathers, not him. His forefathers are the one who moved to from Dimishq, from Khorasan to Dimishq, and then moved to Qurtuba. Right. But of course, Ibn Hazm was born in Qurtuba, and it's known that west of Sibili, his grandfather is from there. Um, but the one good thing about Ibn Hazm's childhood, because of his father. Ibn Hazm's father was a great politician, meaning to say that he was wazir. He was a wazir of that place. If you look at his upbringing, he used to be like in many occasions. Historian says that Ibn Hazm's father were wazir for 3 different places, right? And then what is the advantage of this? Because Ibn Hazm was able to learn so many things, meaning so many knowledge came to him because he is a wazir. And then usually, if you have seen it somewhere, you know that the gurus, the teachers, will come to the palace and then they will teach. So this is the good thing about Ibn Hazm. He was able to learn so many things, and that's how he started talking about logic and then ethics. Even he has books in poetry, right? These are the things. um, and then his most important work, like I told you earlier, Kitab al-Fisal fil Milal wal Ahwa wal Nihal. um, so from here we can see what in that book, what are the economic ideas that he has. So most probably we are going to only talk about four um, four economic thought that are relevant, which are actually basic needs and poverty. And then we can talk about zakah, what he said zakah. And then we can talk about his insights, what he talks about taxes, and then what he talks about land tenure theories. So in summary, I could say that these are the things. There are some his views. Um, After reading his writing, someone will think that he could be the socialistic Muslim scholar. So some of them even said that Ibn Hazm is a Muslim socialist. Uh, but inshallah, we'll answer to that. Okay, at the end of the class, inshallah, probably today or maybe the next class, we will answer to that claim, whether it is conception or is it a misconception. Okay. Okay then. So let us go with the slides. Abu Muhammad Ali ibn Abu Umar Ahmad ibn Sa'id ibn Hazm al-Qurtubi al-Andalusi, commonly referred as Ibn Hazm, was born on last day of Ramadan. So look at the timeline, 384 Hijri, 994 AD in Qurtuba. Ibn Hazm's family was notable status with wealthy position. His father was Abu Umar Ahmad, attained a high position in the administrative hierarchy. So he was a wazir. So wazir means, that, wazir means what today? Wazir means, anybody can tell me what means wazir? Wazir means prime minister. That's what we call wazir. In fact, you can see that any Commonwealth countries, you can see that prime minister are given more power than president. Like for example, India, we have president, but prime minister is the powerful man. Here also in Malaysia, we have prime minister. We don't have president, but that's because we don't have president because we have Agong, but we have prime minister. Similarly, if you go to UK, also they don't have president. That's because the Queen Elizabeth is the president, but they have prime minister. So prime minister, the one who works under the king or the queen. So now wazir is like a prime minister. So his father was there, holding the rank of wazir al-Mansur for al-Mansur, and his son al-Muzaffar, also a father and son who ruled efficiently in the name of Khalifa Hisham too. But still, there was a crisis. This is the most important thing. Of course, the father was a wazir, but when he was, the entire family was in Qurtuba, um, there was a crisis. It's like a political crisis. It happened, like I told you earlier, um, there is always a fight. There is always, there is always a problem, disharmony. So it happens, and during his time also it happened. So Ibn Hazm lived was a period of a decisive crisis for Andalusia. As a result, it was caused a negative effect for the family of Ibn Hazm. It's like, Ibn Hazm was in top family. He was a top family members, and of course because of the background. But all of a sudden, nothing. All of a sudden, everything has taken out. Uh, that's seriously something very difficult to digest. You are a silver spoon baby, right? Born with silver spoon, suddenly you have nothing. It happened to Ibn Hazm. So to talk about his death, yeah, he lived there until 456 Hijri. So if I'm mistaken, he lived more than 70 years at his village in Mantal Sham near Seville. I think right now still even there are some statues also available in the name of Ibn Hazm. Okay, when Ibn Hazm entered a semi-retirement situation, hence devoting his efforts towards intellectual work, teaching and writing various works. Beside that, with his great personality, Ibn Hazm attained respect as one of the greatest thinkers in Arab Muslim civilization. These are the top 6 factors. Number one, he has a personal traits, great characteristic, his own strength of rigor memory, sharpness in thought. In fact, his words are very commendable. Like they used to say that he was like the one who was Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. Of course, he was not the right. He was not the right person because he is the one who ordered. He's one of the reason why Hazrat Hussein was killed. Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. So but they used to tell his tongue. They say that he talks like Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. That's because of his fluency. You see these people, they were born in Kurtuba, but they speak Arabic. Their Arabic is very good. The second factor is having the benefit of undergoing a thorough education coupled with his personal enthusiasm to learn and indulge in current concern. For instance, traditions, grammar, lexicography, rhetoric, dialectic, and theology. So these are the things. In fact, if you know, there is a term called, of course, you can tell in classical literature, you can call someone like he's a scientist, or he's a linguistic, or he is a theologist, or he is a jurist, even economist also you can say. But have you heard the word polymath? Anyone know the word polymath? Okay. Polymath is the word used in classical literature for those who actually learn so many things, like the old time, like his time. For example, Ibn Hazm was a polymath. Um, it's nothing to do with mathematics. It is also including mathematics, of course. So, for example, the scholars like Ibn Hazm, or the scholars like the next one we'll talk about, Fakhruddin Razi. So these are the scholars. They learn not one. They are not expert in one field. They are experts in so many fields. So they know medicines. They know astrology, astronomy. They know also language, lexicography, and then they know also tradition. They know also theology. So these are the people called polymaths. As I told you, it was easy for him to learn. Um, because of the wazir, because his father was a wazir, and so many ulama came to the palace and then started teaching him. So he started learning. In fact, there was a story I remember I studied somewhere, but I don't remember exactly where. There was a friend of Ibn Hazm, um, who came and told him, because he was a poor friend. He was a poor friend, but he also a scholar, like Ibn Hazm. He is also a scholar. So one day he came and he told Ibn Hazm that you learn all those things uh, without any difficulties. I learned everything with difficulty because I was poor and you were rich. So, the reason he is telling this, because he wanted to prove that he learned everything with difficulties, with so much expenses, with so much patience and everything. But when it comes to Ibn Hazm, he says that Ibn Hazm, you learn everything at ease because it came to you. Then Ibn Hazm replied something that was very good. His reply was very good. He said, perhaps maybe because of that, I might say that since you spend a lot, you put so much difficulty to learn, maybe there is a possibility that you might be expecting some benefit from your knowledge, meaning to say that you may charge for your knowledge because you put difficulties to learn, because this is what happened when you learn a skill with the difficulties. You always wanted to, of course, this is what people do. People always convert into profit. So he said, maybe you will go and convert into profit because you put difficulty in learning knowledge. Perhaps me, I don't have to do that because it came to me. So maybe I will not. Maybe there's a possibility that I will not spend my knowledge for profit. So this is something like I read this somewhere. I don't remember where. So this is like these are the people. He's a great thinker. That's what I wanted to tell. Great mufakkir. In Arabic we call mufakkir. Also, command over various foreign languages, and also benefiting from conducive environment, notable and wealthy position family, and also active participation as a wazir in public affairs, administration, military, political concerns. Okay, I just need to clear it here, because he was not a wazir. His father was a wazir. Ibn Hazm was not in any state administration. So what they mean here in the slide is actually, yes, of course, while his father was in active participation as a wazir in public affairs, so maybe he was there. Of course, he used to live with his father for several years, so he has to follow the family. So in that way, he had experience how things goes, but he was not a wazir. Only his father was. Then you have number 6, positively reacting to his opposition by wearing upon himself. I think this is what I think the story will suit to this number 6, positively reacting to his opposition. Okay, what are the positions that he had? He proved to be a forceful literature historian, philologist, rhetoricist, jurist, philosopher, theologian. As I told you earlier, he wrote 80,000 sheets, which is actually similarly, it is quite similar to 400 works, but only 40 of them are still existing. So his works encompass subjects such as jurisprudence, logic, history, ethics, comparative religion. You know that book, Kitab al-Fisl? He talks about the comparative religion. I think that book also is quite interesting and also important reference for the students of comparative religion. If you happen to be, or if you know that there is a department called comparative religion in IRKHS. I think some of you may know. If you don't know, now you know. We have Usuluddin and comparative religion. So people even have programs they do. So now these are the books are very important for that kind of department. However, less than 40 of these works are still existing. Ibn Hazm followed his father's footsteps as wazir for 3 different occasions, such as below. So his father was a wazir to Abdul Rahman, and his father was wazir to Abdul Rahman al-Murtala, Abdul Rahman al-Mustazhir, and then again he was under Hisham al-Mu'tad. Ibn Hazm was not involved in state administration throughout his life. Okay then. So now we have these economic ideas. Usually we talk about these economic ideas because these are the summary of what we can see from his work. We have the work like Muhalla bil-Aathar, but if you look at the difference between Abu Yusuf, Abu Ubaid, and Ibn Hazm. So you need to understand the difference. You see, when we talk about Abu Yusuf, always the book Kitab al-Kharaj will come, because Kitab al-Kharaj exclusively written for revenues, for taxes. Yeah. And then when we talk about Abu Ubaid, there is an exclusive book written by the name of Kitab al-Amwal, which talks about the public finance. As Ugi Suharto, he confirms that he also wrote a paper. He wrote a PhD thesis on his work Kitab al-Amwal. So he says it is called public finance. So now, if you are looking for that kind of exclusive writing for economic ideas, then you don't get it for Ibn Hazm. That's why Ibn Hazm is not quite famous when it comes to Islamic economist. He is not as famous as Abu Yusuf and Abu Ubaid, because he doesn't have an exclusive. So what he wrote, actually, the book name is Fiqh al-Muhalla bil-Aathar. For example, this Muhalla bil-Aathar is actually a fiqh book, right? This one, most probably, it comes with so many volumes. This book comes with so many chapters as well, and it is also called as a book of sweetened or adorned treatise, because the word muhalla itself, the word hulu is there. Hulu in Arabic, hulu means sweet. So this book is considered one of the primary source for Zahiri, right? And this book was actually, let me tell you about his work. His work, even though it considered one of the source for Zahiri, but it is actually encyclopedia of fiqh, because he talks about all the views in his book. Um, that's why this book is considered as one of the most important book, and at the same time, this book is one of the book that not many scholars gave attention. That's because, when you call someone Zahiri, when you call someone Zahiri, someone that who people think that, even scholars also think that, okay, he doesn't want to go into reasoning. This is a misconception as well. As I told you several times, Ibn Hazm was Zahiri, but only in fiqh, because when it comes to Quran and Sunnah, he doesn't want to give interpretation. And most of the time, even it is a good idea, because the minute that we go and we interpret the Quran and Sunnah, there should be some limitation. You don't have to interpret all the time. For example, Yadullahi fawqa al-jama'ah. The word is Yadullah is there, Allah's hand. So now Allah's hand is there, meaning to say, it means that we can understand. It means Allah's help is there. But if someone wants to interpret saying that, Yadullah means what? Hand means what? Allah has a hand. Does that hand look like us? Whether the hand has 5 fingers? So these are the interpretations actually, according to Hazm, is not necessary. So whatever it is, he says, okay, if Allah said Yadullah, so we just believe that it is Yadullah. Of course, there are so many other arguments are going on. That's the reason why we have groups like Asha'ira and also Mu'tazila and also Maturidiyya, right? Most probably Asha'ira and Maturidiyya is the accepted mazhab in Aqidah. But Mu'tazila and Khawarij is different. They have differences in interpretations. So what I wanted to tell you, it is like this book is actually, there are so many things. It is actually many described as Muhalla, as an encyclopedia of Islamic fiqh. It has preserved many views of the early scholars. If you want to know about the early Islamic sources, you see, most of the time we just go back to Quran and Sunnah. We just go back to Quran and Hadith, not even Sunnah. We don't call it. We call it Hadith. So Hadith means, Quran means, okay, we have Quran 6,666. Hadith means we have that authentic Hadith, for example, Bukhari and Muslim. But do you think you can only holding these sources and then you can come up with solutions? No, I don't think so. If you have only Quran in your hand and you try to ignore everything else that happened after the revelation of the Quran, which we call it turath, which we call it heritage. If you want to ignore the entire turath and then you just want to open Quran and then find a solution, I don't think it is possible. I don't think it is possible. You need to understand the way the people understood earlier, and then the people who interpret later, the people who actually followed it, the people who did the work on that, the understanding of it. This is what we call turath. That's why this class that we are now having, this semester, this course is actually a Turas. We are trying to get the economic thought of Turas. That is very important. That's why the work should be acknowledged. And as I told you, the book is encyclopedia, and the only problem with the book is actually, it's there are so many criticism of his opponents. That's the only problem why the book is not quite famous. Because if you see the language, now you remember I told you his language was similar to Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. Because Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, of course, different time. Hajjaj ibn Yusuf is not the right person, but Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, the tongue is actually always comes straight. It's like today what we call very open, like very transparent, open, or you call it. I think we have debaters, we have debaters among our class. I think you know better the debaters. It is called straight to the point, striking, or something like cutting someone. So most of the time, as our culture doesn't allow that. Even though he is wrong, we always go politely say, "Sir, you are wrong," right? "Sir, you killed someone. Could you please stop killing?" Some cultures are like that. But Hajjaj ibn Yusuf was different because he was very harsh. He was actually um, known for harsh. I think similarly, Ibn Hazm also known for that kind of language. That's the only problem with his book, actually. So he used to do a lot of criticism of his opponents. If someone give interpretation of Quranic verse or hadith, then he won't, let him. He will be criticizing him to the core, that he says that this is wrong. But that's what people do. I mean, scholars do, of course, criticism. But yet, there is no doubt that it is a honest criticism, right? So he wanted to consider to bring the truth. So any scholar who wants to, exercise ijtihad, definitely he has to arrive sometimes to this kind of questions to encounter. So that's what we. So now the book, as I told you, Muhalla bil Athar. This is the entire book, multi-volumes book, right? Um, this book also was taught in Medina for many years with interpretation. So from this book is actually what we have uh, extracted the four concept that we are going to talk about. So I think inshallah we will continue with this four concept, and then also we will talk about the misconception or the conception of what we called earlier, whether Ibn Hazm is a Muslim socialist or Muslim liberalist or not, because this is also quite important issue. Because some countries, I think back in Indonesia, I think there is an issue when it comes to liberal Islam. Suddenly Ibn Hazm became the scholar of liberal Islam. So I just want to see whether how much it is true. So we will also discuss about it in the next class. Okay, that's all from me.